Hey, Pastor Josh here. We're reading Genesis chapter 50, verses 15 through 21. Only 2 more days left in the book of Genesis, today and tomorrow, and then in June 1, we will begin our read through of the book of Exodus. I do want to take this opportunity or take this time for you to either text me, email me, let me know in person that these have been helpful to you. I want to make sure that you're listening. I want to make sure that they're helpful to you. They do help me and edify me myself, but it is also helpful for me to continually know that people are watching and are benefiting from them. And if there's something I could do a little different, maybe Josh, make them a little longer, make them a little shorter, be a little bit more concise. Those things are actually rather helpful to me, especially as we kind of make these transitional times between books. So just reach out to me and let me know that you have found these helpful and that I should continue doing them, or if there's some little tweak maybe I should make, let's do that. I try to watch kind of the YouTube analytics that tell me how many views and hours that are watching, and it appears that someone is watching and is watching a significant amount of time, and that there are many people. I would estimate there's probably around 60 to 70 people that watch it intermittently, and I'm sure there's probably about 30 or so that are just faithful. They watch every single one. But just let me know. It's also good to have verbal things as well. That helps me. So let's get into our reading. God's good purposes. When Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said, "It may be that Joseph will hate us and pay us back for all the evil that we did to him." They're pretty scared. They're pretty afraid now that their daddy has died. Now that their daddy has passed away, they're afraid that Joseph is going to use all of his authority, all of his power to really bring the hammer down on them. So they're afraid. So here's what they did. Verse 16, they sent a message to Joseph saying, "Your father gave this command before he died." Now we don't know for sure if he really said this or not. Surely at this point the brothers are not being deceptive, even though we know that's been in their character in the past. Surely they're being honest about this, but we don't know for sure, and we could see that it's within their character perhaps to be even making this up at this time. But your father gave this command before he died. Notice they're not saying our father, but your father. Say to Joseph, "Please forgive the transgression of your brothers and their sin, because they did evil to you. And now, please, forgive the transgression of the servants of the God of your father." Joseph wept when they spoke to him. And I think he wept because he did already, in his heart of hearts, he had already forgiven them. To him, it was all done. To him, it was all over. He has brought them in because he has understood that God brought him there to ultimately save his people, to save a lot of people. And he's going to tell them that explicitly. But this has happened in his heart. And so now when he realizes that his brothers are... They wonder if he really has forgiven him. He's wept. And so verse 18, his brothers also came and fell down before him and said, "Behold, we are your servants." Now, let me make a small note here. If you do notice with the brothers, they wrote a letter first, and then they came in person. And so sometimes in situations where there is discord, there's conflict, sometimes it might be good to communicate the message through some sort of written means, or even some sort of perhaps a voicemail or whatnot. Leave it before you approach the person in person, face to face. So I think that is normally a good example to follow. So then they come before him and said, "Behold, we are your servants." But Joseph said to them, "Do not fear, for am I in the place of God? Am I really going to exact revenge on you? No," is the implied response. And here's the key, and here's one of the glorious verses of Genesis. Genesis chapter 50, verse 20. As for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring about that many people should be kept alive as you are today. Genesis 50:20. I think that would be a great verse for you to memorize, especially the front part. As for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good. And its corresponding New Testament verse, Romans 8:28. All things work together for good to those who love God and are called according to his purpose. God indeed, for his own children, for those that are Christians, he works together all things for good. And is that not a wonderful attitude for us to adopt and to keep in our heart? It really keeps us from being revengeful. It really keeps us from holding grudges. It really keeps us from not having the ability to forgive. And when we do not forgive, essentially we are only hurting ourselves, because we're dwelling on it, we're thinking about it, we're being upset, and oftentimes the person, if they're a scoundrel and don't really care one way or another if they have offended you or not, they're not bothered by it, but you are. And if they have become repentant and they've changed their ways, oftentimes they are not dwelling on it, because before the Lord, in their own heart, they have done what they could. But you are the one who is holding on to a grudge, and it's actually hurting your own heart the most. So you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good. And then verse 21, you see the great example of Joseph, because all of us struggled to forgive different cases and different situations. But look at Joseph. Joseph says, do not fear. I will provide for you and your little ones. Yes, you threw me in a pit. Yes, you considered killing me. Yes, but God meant it for good, and I'm still going to take care of you. I'm going to use the power and the authority that God has given me to take care of you. Thus he comforted them and spoke kindly to him. What a great example to follow. He was kind. He was comforting. He did well. And I think everybody would say Joseph did not use his authority to exact revenge on those people that were against him. Instead, he used it to bless and to care for all people. I hope that's been a blessing to you, and I hope that has been a help. And I'll see you in the I'll see you tomorrow, the last day of our Genesis reading.